Royal Navy's mine-hunting mothership signs a memorandum of understanding with Gibraltar. Families highlight the importance of autism awareness and support through diagnosis. And the Fine Arts Association says it's working on practical improvements for local artists. Good evening. The GST has condemned the government's draft conflicts of interest bill as bureaucratic and weak. Opposition leader Keith Asabadli says it is deliberately engineered to undermine the substance of the Openshaw report's recommendations. Rosa Stengo spoke to him.
The reality with this legislation that has been drafted, that the government wants to take forward, is that it's not going to control conflicts of interest, it doesn't prohibit certain conduct, and it will not repeat the excesses of what we have seen in the past.
When you say certain conduct, can you be more specific?
I'll be very specific. If you pick up the Canadian legislation, it prohibits the so-called revolving door, that you leave government and then you get a job or a contract. It prohibits the eligibility of taking certain contracts and being entitled to apply for certain contracts while you are related to a government minister or you have close political contacts with government ministers. This is the stuff that we've been talking about in the GSD. This is not new. The stuff that we've been talking about in the GSD for many, many years. It so happens that this has become now an Openshaw recommendation. But what this law that the government has produced does is pays entire lip service to the Openshaw recommendation without actually meeting the real issue, which is how do you control conflicts of interest? How do you avoid things happening again? I mean, let me give you a very good example. 36 North, which is the company within which the Chief Minister had ultimate beneficial interest, vying for a government contract. That is completely unacceptable. Would this law prohibit that in future? The answer is no, because it's a toothless monster of bureaucracy where there are no clear prohibitions. If we had the Canadian legislation, all the controls that the GST has been advocating for many years, it would precisely prevent that stuff happening. Awards to contracts of people who are related to ministers or who are in the government party. Those are the things that we've been talking about for many, many years, that this law will not prevent, because this law is what the government always do.
Well, the government said that they looked at the Canadian law and it wasn't appropriate. Would you agree with that?
Well, is it inappropriate or inconvenient? Because look, you're creating this massive bureaucracy of rules, regulations, guidance that doesn't take you anywhere and doesn't tell you what the prohibitions are for 40,000 people, and yet in Canada you can have a law that precisely prohibits certain things for 40 million people. Are we really saying that it's so difficult to create those prohibitions, or is it that actually it's not inappropriate, but it's inconvenient? Because if we created those prohibitions, things that are happening today in terms of the awards or eligibility of contracts, or indeed on any other conflicts of interest that are not properly navigated, would continue to happen again.
Is it completely toothless? Are there any parts of the bill that you do support?
Look, half of the bill, there's 46 sections, half of the bill, 23 sections, are about creating further regulations, rules, guidance, or arrangements. It's about drowning you in further layers of bureaucracy without telling you what the prohibitions actually are. If you pick up the Canadian law, it's very precise. Why aren't those prohibitions in this law? Why is it so difficult? Or is it, in fact, that the government are unwilling to legislate to control conflicts of interest?
And what do you make about the issue that the Chief Minister has the power to exclude public bodies from this bill, such as regulators?
There are many, many things that could be said about this law if we were to slice and dice different segments. And one of the big issues for me is that it is not obvious that this law catches government-owned companies, for example, whereas it's very clear that the Canadian legislation does talk about crown corporations. In other words, companies where the Canadian government has interest. This law in Gibraltar doesn't appear to do that. So there is a mechanism there. It looks like there's a big hole where you can sidestep certain issues on conflicts of interest. What we think is, and we've been saying it for many, many years, that you need to have robust controls on conflicts of interest. And that's not just about principles. It's about real prohibitions. It's not about taking reasonable steps to prevent conflicts of interest. It's about prohibiting those conflicts of interest. And it's about extending it beyond what this draft law does, which is toothless and a bureaucracy, into real effects. And the real effects are about controlling financial transactions that the government are involved in and the conflicts that are underlying those financial transactions.
And this evening, the government has responded. It says the GSD's opposition to the bill shows how far they are prepared to go to capitalise on the McGrail inquiry to push their own political agenda.
Number 6 says the GSD is trying to create the false impression that the government ignored the Openshaw recommendations when it says the exact opposite is true. It says, according to the report, Gibraltar could either adopt the Canadian model directly or develop a tailor-made model, and that the latter was supported by Daniel Greenberg, the UK Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards, who drafted the bill in a private capacity. It says the bill covers similar ground to the Canadian model and more, but in a more certain, enforceable and structured way that fits in with Gibraltar's legal system and is flexible to adapt to changing circumstances. Number 6 says this was explained clearly at the time of the publication of the command paper for public consultation, which itself followed an extensive period of discussion with a wide cross-section of public officials, statutory bodies, law enforcement agencies, representatives of the business community, and indeed the opposition. It accuses Keith Asopardi of aligning himself not with the chair of the inquiry, but with Ian McGrail and his lawyers, and of letting his political ambition get in the way of what is best for Gibraltar.
The lawyer who represented Ian McGrail at the inquiry into the early retirement of the former police commissioner has made this the subject of a lecture at City Law School. In his role as a visiting professor of law, Adam Wagner KC spoke of his experience in the inquiry. Under the title Between a Rock and a Dark Place, he has today published the lecture's text on the online platform Substack.
For Adam Wagner KC, it was no ordinary inquiry. Highlighting its twists and turns, he states that having acted in 9 public inquiries, none of it was normal. None of the other inquiries, he claims, determined accountability as plainly as Sir Peter Openshaw did, nor had any of them been so damning of a serving public official. Mr. Wagner is sceptical about the fruits from the inquiry, claiming the government is suing the inquiry chair to essentially quash the main findings. And he's not hopeful on the recommended reform of the police authority, since he says it's being controlled by a committee jointly chaired by the Chief Minister, the same person, he says, who was found to have misled the GPA. On the Public Service Standards and Conflicts of Interest Bill, he expresses reservations about whether it will ever be applied to the people who it's really targeted at. A society, he says, can have the appearance of the rule of law without it working in practice, claiming that when Gibraltar's seemingly independent institutions were tested, the checks and balances simply crumbled. Adam Wagner believes the inquiry did not restore public confidence, and that aside from public and international embarrassment, there do not appear to have been any consequences. No apologies, no resignations, no criminal investigations for misconduct in public office. Just, he says, officials brazening it out. He further believes that while this was an opportunity for reconciliation, the public authorities involved did not take it. Reconciliation, he adds, requires insight and self-awareness, and at a basic level, people need to admit failings.
In other news, the Royal Navy's mine-hunting mothership HMS Stirling Castle has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with Gibraltar, establishing the first-ever affiliation between a Royal Navy ship and the Rock. The ceremony, in front of invited guests, including the Governor and Chief Minister, took place on the bridge, with Mayor Nicholas Guerrero co-signing the memorandum. HMS Stirling Castle is in Gibraltar after delivering essential equipment to RFA Line Bay, which has now departed for the Middle East for potential mine clearance operations.
Gibraltar's relationship with the Royal Navy dates back over 300 years, yet the ceremony on board HMS Stirling marked another first. The first ever affiliation between a Royal Navy ship and the Rock. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed by the ship's commanding officer and the Gibraltar Mayor.
Now, Royal Navy ships have long held civic affiliations, but this is the first time that I'm aware of that any ship in the Royal Navy has ever been affiliated with Gibraltar. Really important to us and really important for the relationship with Gibraltar moving forward.
What a huge source of pride for Gibraltar to have an affiliation with one of His Majesty's ships.
It's just a bond of friendship between the city and the ship. It's a good excuse for me to badger my programmers to bring the ship back here more often. That's good for everybody. But it also forms a long-lasting formal link between the ship and the city of Gibraltar.
But it's a bond that goes far deeper than many realise.
Back in 1944, 1st of August 1944, the previous Stirling Castle, which was a liner converted to a transport, arrived here at the exact spot on which we are standing now, which brought the third lot of the evacuees, 3,161 of them, and my mother was on board.
So Stirling Castle's come here to deliver a whole host of cutting-edge mine hunting technology to RFA Line Bay, who, as you saw, sailed earlier today, with all that kit that we brought on board. Well, Gibraltar's always been strategically massively important. That doesn't change. The geography is the same. But I certainly hope you'll see much more of us in the future. The Royal Navy, as you know, has got a history stretching back nearly 400 years here. And because we sit at the crossroads of the Atlantic and the Mediterranean where we stand, it means that when we deploy on operations, it's a perfect location. But it's also designed over many, many years to deliver that support. And so, look around the harbour, the ammunition depots, the fuel supply, and the great people of Gibraltar. It's not just important to resupply the ships, but of course it resupplies the morale of my ship's company when they turn up here.
I would imagine you know Gibraltar well yourself.
Yes, I've known Gibraltar for many, many years, and I love it. I commanded a ship here for 7 months, much of it spent on this jetty. I know the place really well, and I think I have good reason to love it.
Just tell us something about the history of Stirling Castle, if you can.
So Stirling Castle is a vessel that was built for the North Sea. She was owned and operated by a Norwegian company for 10 years. She was bought by the MOD in 2022 and operated by the Royal Fleet Auxiliary for 2 years, which is great news. They're the experts in operating commercial equipment.
And finally, what happens to Stirling Castle after this stopover? Could it be following Line Bay to the Gulf as well?
Well, I'll tell you what I would like to do. We're heading back to the UK after this. We've got a commissioning to do. The ship hasn't been formally commissioned yet. She's only been in the Royal Navy for less than a year. And so we'll take her up to Grangemouth, which is near to Stirling and Stirling Castle. We'll have a number of dignitaries on board, and we'll do a formal commission of the ship, if you like, her very first birthday party. And after that, it's on to operations. And if that ends up being some hotspot in the world, no one will be happier than me.
So a historic bond is strengthened once again as we enter a new era of heightened global maritime security.
The complainant in a rape trial has told the Supreme Court she woke up to the defendant touching her sexually. Glass's estate resident Johannes Green faces several charges, including rape and assault. He denies all charges. The jury in the Johannes Green trial has heard the complainant's police interview in which she described the alleged rape. She told officers she woke up in shock and felt horrible afterwards, and said she had never told anyone about it, not even her friends. The court also heard the complainant say the defendant had taken her mobile phone and would send her repeated emails, many containing derogatory remarks. During the interview, the police officer described this type of behaviour as psychological and emotional abuse. The complainant is expected to give live evidence by video link. Johannes Green stands indicted on several counts, including rape. He denies all charges. You're watching GBC News. Still to come, autism awareness. Families highlight the importance of support through diagnosis. And the Fine Arts Association's Summer Arts Show opens at Casemates. Well, we'll be back in a few minutes. Stay with us. Welcome back. Catalan Bay Road will close to traffic overnight from 9:30 to 7 a.m. every night from this evening to Sunday. The closure will allow for essential works to take place on the East Side Sewer Transfer Scheme. Access to Catalan Bay and Both Worlds will be via Europa Advance Road, and pedestrian access will be unaffected. The night buses will run on amended routes, with the N8 East departing and terminating at Williams Way and the N8 South departing and terminating at Chatham Countercart. Around 1 in 100 children in the UK are formally diagnosed with autism. And while we don't have local statistics, families say awareness and support through diagnosis can make all the difference. This Sunday, there's a family fun day lined up at Casemates, Awesome Autism Awareness, organised by Leslie Chaddick. Bianca Demit's daughter, Phoebe, recently had a formal diagnosis, and Nicole Buckley, founder of Possibilities, had it hard after encountering obstacles with her son's way. All three mothers spoke with Kellyanne Borge about their experience and how things are changing on the Rock.
I could see she was struggling at school. We still weren't reading and writing and things like that naturally by herself. And I think me taking some home footage and keeping a diary of her habits and what she went through when she come home to me and how she acted out at weekend or in social environments, I had to kind of take that to Senko and to the board and say, look, this is the child I have. This is the one I deal with. And how she's not coping and she's not well. It's making her unwell. So after a long few months, she got her diagnosis and she got LSF support. She then got her dyslexia diagnosis as well. All of a sudden, she started catching up. And people just had that respect and understanding, I guess, that rather than just taking her word for it, they're like, no, Evelyn, do you understand? Should we do it again? So that gave her a step up.
Does any of this relate to you? Can you kind of... yeah?
Her twins is Phoebe in one.
Yeah.
It's completely, so I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm like, yes, yes. So with Phoebe, I knew from a very, very early age. It was like...
How old, more or less?
When she started school. Well, actually, poor thing, she had glue ear as well. Mm-hmm. So her development...
Which can affect speech.
No, it did affect her speech, her development, everything. So once that got sorted, I knew, well, I think it was like year 1 in Governor's Meadow, which they were completely helpful and understanding, honestly. I went back and said, my child is not ready for reading. I said, well, what do you mean? My child needs a one-to-one, and I want it now, not when she's in West Side.
One good thing I think did help for Phoebe, which they do in school now, which I'm very impressed at, is that they put support in place without that piece of paper.
Correct.
So I needed that piece of paper desperately.
So even before the official diagnosis?
Mine is 16, Phoebe's 10. So in 6 years, the progress that we've made of schools actually listening to parents as well.
Yes, correct.
Putting it into place.
As I said, Governor's Medal, passed all the papers down to Bishop. They've been both, I cannot, not even a bad word from all the specialists, the doctors, or the schools. They've been fantastic with Phoebe. They've included her in everything. She's just recently come back from her school trip. She's in a choir. Yeah. She does loads of things. So she's not excluded. Plus her friends know her. Mm. So the friends that she has, they know how to deal with her.
My personal experience was that I would find the barrier whereby I would say, oh, can Scott integrate into this particular class extracurricular activity? And yeah, absolutely. But the moment you mention the A word, the moment you say autism, at the time, there was this big barrier. There was a barrier of, we'll let you know. See, obviously, there's still going to be a lot of work that needs to be done because at the end of the day, neurodivergence is a moving target. The numbers are growing, the requirements are growing, the more understanding is growing, which is a great thing, but the distance that has been covered since my experience as a mum.
Even in the last 5 or 10 years, and you'd say the difference is
absolutely, absolutely. Of course it is, and that is just testament to our community, and to the willingness to want to improve and make progress.
There's some mums that they're completely in denial.
Or family members. My parents had no idea what autism was. No. They've had a huge
And
education.
the worst thing that you can actually tell a mum, oh, your child doesn't look autistic. What do you...
I think we were mentioning about diagnosis and labels, and I think what we need to educate people on more, the fact is that they're not the same thing, and that a diagnosis shouldn't have to change or determine the support a person gets or that they need, or determines the starting point of that support.
The Awesome Autism Awareness event kicks off at midday in Casemates. The Fine Arts Association is working on practical improvements for local artists, offering studio space and looking into ways to provide support for the artistic community. The annual Summer Art Show is on at the gallery in Casemates until the 5th of June. Victor Gonzalez from the Fine Arts Association told our reporter Claire Hernandez about the origins of the exhibition.
This showcase started turn of the century, 2000 more or less, when Sir Peter Caruana gave the Fine Arts Association these premises, and since then it's been like an annual event, the summer show exhibition. You need to be a member in order to exhibit your work here and sell it. But having said that, I'd like to extend an invitation to everyone out there. You can become a member for free, or just a paying member, and it's a ridiculous price of £15 a year anyway. And you are allowed to exhibit and sell your artwork. I'd also like to invite the public in general to pop in. I mean, a lot of you just go past the gallery and maybe don't notice us, so just come up the stairs, visit our gallery, just to look at the work, and who knows, you might find something that would fit perfectly in a space in your sitting room.
Do you find that more members are coming to the Fine Arts Association as more people seem to be getting more involved in art locally?
Well, we've made a concerted effort to try and increase our membership. I've personally gone to both comprehensive, so now all 6 formers are members. We've got the graduate showcase as well. We're attracting students who finish the work to become members. And yes, we're just trying to up members. At the moment we have maybe around about 200, but we want to increase that.
Do you think that there are more things that can be done for artists locally, perhaps artists who've been away at university and are coming back, like you mentioned, the graduate showcase? That's a very big drawing point. What can the Fine Arts Association offer to them?
Well, we offer some space. We've cleared up the back room now, and we're going to open that to members to come and use that as a space. We're also trying to get equipment like a printing press that you wouldn't be able to have at home, and people can come and use it here. One of the things that we've done as well when Valerie Springrose came over is that one of the little seeds that she planted in her minds was all the benefits and support that artists have in Ireland, for example. Some of them are sponsored, there are tax benefits and so on, and it's something that we would really like to explore with government.
So a bright future ahead potentially for a lot of artists in Gibraltar?
Very bright future, lots of things going, lots of ideas, lots of very good ideas, and we have a very, very good committee, very dynamic committee, and we're always thinking of new things to do.
Well, that's all from the GBC News team for now. Don't forget, you can always catch up on our website and social media pages. Have a good evening. Good night.